are coming to you live from Newegg Studios in Southern California. This is Newegg Now. I'm Trisha Hirschberger.
I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell. We're here every Thursday, like clockwork, 10 a.m. Pacific time, to talk to you all about hardware, gaming, and limited time deals. So good, they only last through the end of the day or while supplies last. I'm pretty sure there's at least 2 deals on this page I won't even be able to get to because we're actually on the show right now. Which
you cheated. You looked ahead, huh?
I cribbed. We have the script, so I at least checked out my notes. But that's also where you should go. You can watch along on Newegg.com/Newegg now because that's where all of those promo codes are that you'll need to save on CPUs, TVs, and yes, even a really killer graphics card deal.
Yes. This episode, we're talking about Computex 2018, a huge convention going on right now in Taipei, Taiwan, that covers everything PC related. All the biggest companies are there, and we've been paying close attention to all the cool tech that's being revealed.
Yep.
And then there's also Apple's Wwdc event to talk about, where one of the world's biggest and most valuable companies gave us a look at their strategy for the future of their mobile devices. So there's so much great tech news to cover this week.
But before we get into all of that,
Okay.
because I teased it, we might as well just take the wrapper off. Let's not even pretend. There is a special Newegg Now deal we want to tell you about right now. And whenever I start slowing down like this, it's probably because it's a pretty good one. At the very top of the episode, this one will go fast.
Yes.
Every time we've done something like this is one of those deals that evaporates right now.
Tell us!
On Newegg Now, Newegg.com/Newegg Now, on that page.
Yep.
You can pick up an EVGA GeForce GTX 1080 Ti FTW3 GPU for a serious discount, $210 off.
Yeah.
And with a free copy of The Crew 2. This is the hybrid. It's the liquid cooled card at the top of their line. It's probably already gone. Now that I've even just said the title.
We'll
So
see. I feel like
sure
we
you
need
check it out.
prompters on this show so that we can be like, oh,
Right.
oh, is it gone? Oh,
It's
yes,
gone.
it's gone.
And it's gone.
So yeah, that one's definitely going to go fast. And a quick reminder to those out there watching, we are live, so sound off in the comments and be a part of our show today. Share your thoughts about Computex, today's deals, or maybe your E3 predictions since that's next week. And at the end of the show today, we will check in with some of the best of what you guys have to say.
Totally.
Yeah, okay. So Juan,
Yes.
Apple's WWDC 2018 event happened just a few days ago, and you are one of the biggest mobile fans and experts that I know.
This is true.
So what stood out to you from WWDC?
So first of all, I think one of the major talking points, a lot of excitement around Apple's strategy for refining iOS, streamlining iOS, and then anything that's currently running, the current build, iOS 11, is going to get an update to 12 with performance improvements.
Hey!
That's a big deal. And this is something
That is a big deal.
that Apple has been having some issues with, visibility, battery throttling issues, things like that. So I'm happy to see them getting ahead of that part of the story, that part of the discussion. And that's a goodwill gesture.
Totally. Well, you know,
That kind of back
I'm a
support.
hardcore Android user,
I'm
but I have
currently
a
on the
lot of
Android phone,
iPhones. And anytime that they update to a new OS, they're terrified that it's going to brick their phone, or essentially brick their phone.
Or make their phone unusably
so slow it's unusable.
And especially for that disclosure that they were throttling performance because of some of their battery issues.
Yeah.
The battery replacement plan, again, that's a nice way to address one of those concerns, but software is also a big deal for that too. So to see that be one of the major front and center WWDC announcements, I thought was right on par. The other thing that I like, because this is something that Google also talked about a lot for their developer conference, trying to find a good, healthy digital lifestyle balance for our use of mobile technology.
Okay.
So they're going to be building tools into these devices. Both of these companies. This is more coming to a head because of WWDC, but Google also mentioned this too. Giving you notifications on what you're doing, how you're spending your time using your phone or your tablet, and hopefully giving consumers a little bit more information on their usage that can kind of back some of that off. I mean, it's really easy for some of us to build some really bad habits in how we use these devices 24/7, 365.
Right. Yeah. I love that they started talking about grouped notifications.
Oh, I mean, so okay, and that's also just.
I feel like that's part of this same thing though, because like I'm glued to my phone all day because just notification after notification, and I only allow notifications from apps and things that I feel like are important for work.
And I don't know, have you spent any time on iOS 11?
No.
So it feels like the notifications in iOS 11 felt like an Android phone from like 6 years ago.
Oh.
So because you post a lot on the Instagrams and the Twitters. So imagine if you had a separate, non-grouped, can't swipe all of them away notification for every single alert that you got from that platform.
No.
So
is that how bad it was? I didn't realize how bad it was.
It was getting that bad. So I mean, even in the app, I'm like, well, don't give me a notification for when someone subscribes. Don't give me a notification for.
Yeah.
So I was trying to weed it out, and even then, still just on like the replies.
Okay.
Wipe.
So that's a super huge deal.
This is a really big deal.
Yeah.
So this was part of an iOS beta that never really seemed to make it into finished software.
Okay.
And now it's finally making it. So iOS 12, I think, is a great step in where both Android 8 and iOS 11 had some teething pains out of the gate. And I think both companies are looking at how do we refine, how do we improve. It's not necessarily about tons of really great, crazy new features. We've really got to fix a few of these core usage elements that are affecting both platforms. That being said, there are a few fun new features like the Memojis.
Now, is that much different than, like on my Galaxy S9 Plus, there's AR selfie, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's
it's a similar type
race.
of thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't use it. I don't know how much people will use it, but normally when Apple does it, it then suddenly becomes
a much bigger
mainstream
deal.
and
So
people are into
we
it.
had Animojis, and I really felt like one of the things that was lacking from the Animoji experience was accurate tongue tracking. So now that's a thing. And I'm really happy that there's video of me on the internet.
Is there really?
Talking, no, just right now.
Oh, okay.
Now someone can pull my opinions on software for tongue tracking. More important than that would be improvements to FaceTime. So now FaceTime is increasing the number of people that you can have in a chat. So you can have up to 32 people. You can have a family reunion in FaceTime if you want to do that.
Okay, now see, I saw that and I thought, oh, they're trying to creep in on the corporate use cases.
I think so.
But do you think that in a corporate case, people would really go to FaceTime over something like a Skype or a Google Hangouts or any of the plethora of online meeting websites?
So I think you're totally on point. The momentum of having a corporate solution is going to win out.
Right.
But so many institutions, so many corporations, government usage of iOS devices is so high that if you don't have the capability, then no one's ever going to explore trying to use it for that kind of corporate media or messaging or something like that.
Okay.
So even just having it now gives someone in a corporate IT department access or a resource to say, oh, well, we could spend money on this type of a solution. We could look at Skype. We could look at Cisco or Link. I forget what the other one that I was using.
There's a whole
ton
bunch
of these.
Of them.
But now, that's another thing that now properly joins the conversation. If we want to have 20 people in on-site locations in a corporate meeting, we can do that on FaceTime since we're an iOS.
Maybe if everybody's company phone is an iPhone, then maybe that could work. So is there anything else that stood out from WWDC that you can remember? Or do we pretty much touch on it all?
Those are some of the majors. Again, I also am always excited to see this wasn't a major part of the main keynote, but for some of the other developer conversations, Apple's been doing a pretty good job with health and fitness in general.
Yeah.
So anytime I think that they're addressing that, that's one of the things that the Apple effect I think is great for. So Apple doing Animoji stuff is silly, but Apple talking about health management, fitness management, tracking, I think the flip side of that is they can draw light to some of these issues in a way that no other manufacturer can. And that moves the needle on everyone else trying to compete for better health and fitness services.
Sure.
So that to me, I think is also worth, again, offline, once you're done watching us and buying that graphics card that I can't get over to a web browser and buy right away, that would be something I would also recommend viewers check out.
Awesome.
Did I just tank you there? Do you need it?
Yes.
I'm gonna take the next slide. Okay, so moving on from WWDC, let's switch gears. Sorry, I didn't mean to tank my co-host there. Computex this week. We're gonna kick off the discussion with Nvidia, mostly because of what they did not reveal. There were a lot of Newegg fans out there hoping for a next generation GPU reveal. We've been teasing maybe an 1180 instead of a 1080, something like that.
Yeah.
But that's not what we got out of Nvidia at Computex.
No, not at all. Instead, the company focused primarily on their GeForce software. So AI, self-driving cars, robotics. There were huge product announcements.
Big deals, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully soon we'll be able to have them on our show to actually talk about the Jetson Xavier hardware, which will make it easier for robots to move around in the real world.
Yeah, but just for the friendly robots.
Right.
Like we're not gonna extend that out to the scary robots.
No scary robots.
No
welcome.
scary robots.
Not on this show.
That's bad. I mean, maybe even our Einstein
He's terrifying.
might be a little too scary if he were better equipped to autonomously travel around the studio.
I'm just gonna put a creepy picture of him on my Instagram stories after the show, so that you guys can see what we see every day.
I'm gonna join you on that because I can feel him
Terrifying.
looking over my shoulder. So
Yeah.
moving on from Einstein and GPUs to talk about some CPU news. Intel had a lot of very interesting announcements at the show this year, including a brand new CPU supposedly coming out before the end of 2018.
Woo! Of course, you probably all know about the beastly 18-core i9-7980XE X series, which is currently the most powerful consumer CPU on the market. Those 18 cores mean serious multimedia creation power and crazy multitasking potential. But you know what? 18 cores just isn't enough. It's never enough.
It's never enough.
Intel SVP Gregory Bryant demoed a 28-core processor running at 5 gigahertz at Computex and confirmed that it's going to be on sale by the end of the year. So in Cinebench benchmarking, it achieved a score of 7,334 on stage, which we've only ever seen from multi-processor systems.
Every time I think about upgrading,
Yeah.
because I have Frankenbuild, something better comes along. So now I'm wondering, should I wait for this thing?
Always.
So I'm sure it won't be cheap, but I should probably start saving now.
And by the time that you have it saved, something cooler
Something
will
new
come out.
will
And
come
you know
out.
how it
and
is.
It's a never-ending chasing my own tail.
But don't worry, you have other options too. Intel is counting down to its 50th anniversary on July 18th. And to celebrate, the company has a milestone announcement for Computex, the special edition Core i7 8086K. Yes, the 8086K CPU, which is the first CPU from Intel to reach 5 gigahertz in boost mode. It's essentially a fancy version of the existing i7 lineup, but it should appeal to gamers who've been eager to own a 5 gigahertz CPU that does not require overclocking. And of course, for those of you who do want to do some overclocking, it's unlocked, so you'll be in business. Intel will also hold a sweepstakes on its site to give away 8,086 chips.
It just makes me happy too, coming to that 8088.
8086.
Because my first computer was an 8088.
Okay.
But this nostalgia will work on me.
I like it.
If it's the right kind of nostalgia, because Intel's been around for 50 years.
That's crazy.
Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, they're getting up there, one of the longer lasting companies in the tech and gaming world.
Well, Nintendo was founded in 1889. But 50 years is still pretty good.
Making playing cards, not Nintendo. Okay, so Intel is also doing some big things in the mobile space. Companies currently working with Acer, Asus, Microsoft, Dell, HP, Lenovo, delivering laptops and convertibles with new 5G wireless standard, 5G's faster speeds, lower latency over 4G. Could be just what Intel needs to make the dream of always connected PCs, low power devices, built-in mobile services, an actual possibility.
Yes, Intel also announced that it's partnered with Sprint to sell 5G PCs next year, which is surprisingly soon.
Very soon. It's going to be really interesting to see how that works out with T-Mobile and Sprint.
Yes.
That acquisition going through, because I kind of feel like infrastructure and air is going to go T-Mobile's way, and the Sprint side of things is going to get kind of
We'll see.
pushed. So again, very interesting to see how that might shake down.
Predictions from one Carlos Bagnell.
Not you, just pointing out something that could potentially happen. I guess that is a prediction. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. So we should also talk about Team Red AMD. So only a few hours after Intel's big 28-core chip announcement. 28's good, I guess. AMD had a huge announcement of their own. They're refreshing their high-performance flagship chip, Threadripper. And this new monster is going to have 32 cores, 4 more than Intel, in a chip that will fit in the first generation Threadripper socket. So you don't even need to upgrade your motherboard.
The second generation of AMD's Threadripper processors will make use of 4 8-core Ryzen dies to form a massive 32-core processor. This Threadripper chip uses 64 processing threads at a time, doubling the core count and capabilities of the original Threadripper. The only other details that AMD disclosed at Computex were that the second-gen Threadripper will be built using a 12-nanometer process and will be available to buy in the third quarter of this year. So this chip is
It looks
absolutely awesome, but it's also going to be a beast to keep cool.
Yeah.
The air coolers for this Threadripper chip are enormous, as you can
real
probably imagine. Most people who are going to go for this chip are probably using liquid cooling, but it's definitely something that you want to think about. So you're going to need a seriously huge case if you want to air cool this thing.
And so, like, every time I think about upgrading, you know, something better comes along, and I'm wondering, like, should I wait for this thing? Because I'm sure it won't be cheap.
Yeah.
But, you know, I could start saving for it now.
I see what you did there.
And I got to have that in an Intel announcement, and then a couple hours later to an AMD announcement.
Bada boom.
Bada boom.
Bada boom.
So that's a callback, folks.
Yep.
So AMD also had another big announcement at Computex, the Vega 7 nanometer GPU. This is the first example of a graphics processor built onto such a tiny process. So this isn't really a gaming chip. It's part of the Radeon Instinct line. So it's designed for servers, complex tasks like machine learning. AMD CEO Lisa Su assured the crowd that 7 nanometer Navi chips are on the way for gaming cards, but it's not likely we'll see those until 2019.
Yeah, AMD didn't get into too much detail about this new chip, except that it's going to use 32 gigabytes of HBM2 memory. AMD claims that its 7 nanometer process technology will increase performance 1.35 times, double power efficiency, and allow for twice the density. Now, the time frame for release for servers and workstations in the second half of 2018. No pricing details were given, as with most of these announcements, but Instinct cards are notoriously expensive. The MI25 sells for more than $8,000 because, as you learned from our professional hardware episode a couple of months ago, these cards are designed for professional level workloads.
So I just want to stray off script for just a second here. So your reactions to this: Nvidia not launching an 1180, AMD not joining, so I mean, we're still on Vega 64, but actually getting a workstation grade card out potentially by the end of the year. Is this going to be the arms race going into 2019?
Workstation cards?
Yeah, I mean, like building off of that process and eventually getting that into consumer hands. I mean, does AMD now have the time to flesh out their ecosystem, their manufacturing process, and get them into that space while we wait to see what Nvidia is going to do?
Perhaps. I mean, it definitely gives them a leg up having that time to get into that race. And I love competition because it makes everything better for consumers. We all get better performance at a price that maybe is somewhat affordable, you know? So yeah, I think that that's a very smart observation, and, I'd like to see that.
Especially for that conversation too, because you currently have a, you have a 1080?
Yeah, I have a 1080 Ti.
So if correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still on a 970.
You're fine.
That typically the conversation has kind of been around AMD cards being a little bit more future focused, that they tend not to perform as well for legacy titles. Nvidia is sort of straddling that a bit better, that their legacy support is usually better than AMD's, and then they can build off of with their future updates. They can incorporate newer games just fine. That window to me seems like it would be crucial for AMD to get that process and that developer support in hand, and then whatever comes out in 2019, they're much better optimized to fight Nvidia on that front.
And make this more of a race.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're pretty
really
spot on with that. Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Cool. I just, occasionally like to check in, see if I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
I'll go with it, yeah.
We'll definitely be talking about these chips as they are closer to release. This is Newegg now, after all. So let's talk about something we can buy in this exact right moment.
I like that. Let's do that. Yeah, talking about future tech is awesome, but sometimes it just makes you like salivate to get it in your hands, but we have to wait so long. So what can we get right now, Juan?
So you know what we can get right now?
Yep.
Today only. Through Newegg.com/Newegg now, you can get the Ryzen 7 2700 8-core CPU for $25 off. So you can check that out along with a compatible Asus motherboard that we're going to talk about in more detail later on in the show.
Yep.
Good deal.
And now let's talk about that third processor manufacturer who never seems to get as much love as AMD and Intel. That's right, I'm talking Qualcomm and their Snapdragon CPU, the heart of so many smartphones out there, but not just smartphones and tablets. It looks like now they're taking the PC a little bit more seriously.
Definitely. So Qualcomm has announced a new processor specifically designed for Windows 10 always connected PCs. It features ARM processors, integrated LTE, long battery life, and an instant on resume with no hibernation.
Yeah.
So the new Snapdragon 850 follows up the Snapdragon 835 and 845, which have been used in always connected PCs, offers improved performance, connectivity, better battery life, and we actually have a preview from Qualcomm about what this chip can do. So we can throw to that, and you guys can check that out. All right, looking really cool.
Yeah.
Snapdragon 850, so
Yeah.
Built on the second generation 10 nanometer process as the 845, currently used in a bunch of phones. You've been seeing phone reviews for, you're using a Galaxy S9, I'm doing the LG G7, both using that chipset, but now stepping up the 850, using an X20 modem for cellular connectivity. It's going to be better suited. According to Qualcomm, this should be better suited for PC use.
Right. Than even the Snapdragon 845. The Snapdragon 850, which has a built-in AI engine, allows a PC to alternatively connect to an LTE network or Wi-Fi network, and the platform can support 1.2 gigabytes per second LTE download speeds, and it can be used continuously for 25 hours. I currently have...
I was going to say, this isn't hypothetical. You
No,
have
the
a
always
video
connected
out
PCs.
right now.
I have a video out on them right now. They just launched these this week. Now, the ones that they just launched this week are using the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 processor. But as far as the big kind of promises of the always connected PC, as far as it being fanless, so it's thin, it's light, it's quiet, it runs cool, the super long battery life, having that connectivity wherever you go. I mean, it delivers as is in the products that launched this week. So I'm really excited to see the second gen, then with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 850 come out following this news at Computex. I think it's going to be really cool.
Right, and so which one were you using for your video?
I have the Asus Novago.
Nice.
But the HP Envy X2 is also out right now.
Same build.
Yeah, and I believe there's one more out right now too. But they're not the exact same build. They're both using the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835.
Gotcha.
But one's detachable and the other one's
okay, more of like the foldy.
Exactly.
The foldy bendy.
You know, 2-in-1s and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, very flexible, so that you can take them with you and use it in a lot of different use cases. But I'm excited to see where the always connected PC goes, because for those of us who live in Los Angeles and are stuck in traffic all the time, there's so many use cases where you either have sketchy Wi-Fi or no Wi-Fi at all that would be really nice.
Oh, totally. And I mean, from your experience, because I mean, this is super early days and you're using really early hardware for something like this. I mean, did you feel like that got you over the hurdle? Because I know in your video you were cruising around in like a ride sharing taxi.
Yeah, I was in the back of an Uber getting some work done. No, it was really nice, and you know, especially we have the lovely weather here, so if you spend a lot of time outdoors, you can make use of that. It was really great. I mean, you're definitely on Windows 10 Pro in S mode.
Okay.
So that's going to restrict you when it comes to certain universal. Well, you can use all Microsoft Universal apps.
Yeah.
But when it comes to some other use cases, you might have to switch over to Windows 10 Pro, just standard Windows 10 Pro. And so it depends on your use case. And like, you know, if you're thinking of this as your mobile unit for everyday use, then for me at least, it's super delivered. It was great.
We've talked about this a lot. I mean, even off this show, just our phones have gotten ridiculously powerful. There's a lot that you can do from the app perspective.
Yeah.
You know, like writing documents, corporate work, and then getting into content, media creation, stuff like that. I wouldn't be too concerned about an app-focused environment anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you're, a CAD software user, if you're a high-intensity gamer, then,
you have a wheelbarrow for your
for your rig
your
that
mobile
you bring around
computing
with you.
rig.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it's very cool to see the future of tech moving in that direction. So yay, exciting news from Qualcomm.
Awesome.
And then in peripheral news, there's been some interesting developments so far. As many of you guys know, Razer has been making their own mechanical switches for a while now. And we have a Razer key tester right here, in fact.
I'm silly excited
check it
about
out.
this.
There we go. I love when you're typing during the show because all I hear today is clack, 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 and it sounds so good.
It's so pretty.
Now, so Razer is about to start bringing their green, yellow, and orange switches to third-party keyboards. Now, this will be an interesting change in the market as they'll be getting into the Switch industry alongside Cherry, Kale, and Gateron. Very cool.
Very cool. Hold on, and before I go to my next, so there's this key tester has the Razer yellow switch, which is linear and silent, the orange switch, which is tactile and silent, and then the green switch, which is tactile and clippy. So I'm gonna hold this right up to my, where's my camera? I'm gonna hold this right up to my mic.
I love this.
And
Live
so
test.
this is the yellow switch. Very good,
Pretty
very
quiet.
good. So this is the orange switch. There's a little bit more of a give. There's that little pressure point right there. Very good. But the one that I'm ridiculously excited about potentially seeing in third-party products is the green, which has that click. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You feel that?
We are like eerily close to an ASMR video right now.
In the worst way possible.
In the worst way.
Yeah, I love
Wrong
it.
mics
It's
and
beautiful.
everything. But no, seriously, from a business perspective, Razer has a lot of cash and a huge marketing infrastructure. So that could give Razer a serious advantage over the competition. So this could be quite a shakeup in the world of mechanical keyboards.
Yeah, well joined. So they're also doing some interesting things in the RGB space with their Chroma software. At Computex, they announced partnerships with MSI, NZXT, AMD, Thermaltake, and a bunch of others to integrate Razer's Chroma lighting into third-party devices too. So Connected Devices program will allow more RGB lighting-enabled kit, such as the Vertigear RGB gaming chair, which we saw at CES earlier this year, to work with Chroma. It's a nice ecosystem approach.
Yeah, and speaking of RGB, we've had our good friends from Corsair on the show quite a few times. So let's check in with what they've been up to.
Definitely. So first up, it looks like they've been polishing up their lighting software, IQ. We had them on not too long ago showing off that lighting software along with a beautiful white RGB build.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick look at the highlights from that interview, and we can talk about what they're doing after.
When we first released our RGB keyboards 4 years ago, we introduced the world to RGB lighting. And on the other half of our company, we also offered a software called Link in the past, which was mostly about system monitoring. So with one software, you had full customization of all our peripherals. You can do all types of macros, you can do all types of lighting. But on the other half, we had a software that was mostly just system reporting. It monitors your temperatures, it controls your fans. What IQ does is we take both software, we listen to the complaints of our customers who didn't like having two platforms running simultaneously, and we bridged them together. So now, for the very first time, and as the only company that's capable of doing so, we can now offer all the functionality of what happens inside the system to work with everything that's outside your system.
Very cool. Can we actually get a demo of that? Can we throw that up on screen to take a look at that software and see how it works?
Yeah.
Sure. So I can start with the home screen first. So what we have on our home screen here that you can see is that this is all of our devices that are currently being connected. As you collect more and more Corsair swag, and as you connect them, it's going to light up here on the screen to show you that it's working. And what we are allowing users to do is you can go into any of these devices simply by clicking on the panel, and here we have the keyboard playing a lighting animation. But we also have features like showing the coolers with the lighting. Here's some of the performance systems that we are offering for fan control. And really, everything that you've been able to do in the past with our hardware, whether it's customizing the fans, customizing the macros on the keyboard or on a mouse, we've taken nothing away. All we've done is we made it more simpler. We want users to be able to download something after you purchase your hard-earned, you spend your hard-earned money buying our products, and we want you to be able to go in there and play with it right away. We have features like instant lighting where with a simple click of a button, everything can light up red. You can see in this example, I'm lighting everything up with just one click that you can customize in any color you want. In addition to, if you don't like what we have for these simple effects, you can go into the keyboard, for example, and then when you bring up the lighting effects, right now I have 4 effects playing. So what we can do unique in iCUE that nobody else can do is that we can not only allow you to set a pattern like what you're seeing here where all the lighting is working together, you can actually expand as many effects as you want. So in this example, I am increasing the number of visor animations playing. I can allow you to create more rainbows than a unicorn can barf out.
That is intense. So what products are compatible with iCUE?
So iCUE is based off of our former Q platform. So every RGB peripheral and every RGB product that you've had since we released Q is compatible with iCUE. Okay. What we offered as an expansion to that is all of our new coolers, all of our existing coolers, our digital power supplies, your Line Note Pro, your Commander Pro, the strips, and all of our RGB fans are now all supported. Nice. So what that means is even if you had something that used to use our former software, you can actually now introduce it into the ecosystem. You can uninstall the old software, install iCUE, and you can have all the lighting work together.
Does Corsair see themselves in a way fulfilling that expanded home automation or lifestyle discussion? Yeah,
we do. So one of the things that we've been able to understand through the application of RGB is it's not just blinky lights. What we are trying to instill as a philosophy for all of our products moving forward is that it's how to use lighting with a purpose. Right. One of the examples you brought was the living room, and that's where you see ambient lighting being a really big part of it. So with RGB customization, we don't see people just having random rainbows go off on and on. What we want to be able to allow the users to do is maybe if you're watching a movie, you can turn off all the lighting. And that's what we can do with iCUE. You can also maybe set ambient lighting to match the mood. And we see applications like Philips Hue that's really growing up in popularity. And that's something we really want to work with so that, from the desk that's in front of you or from a keyboard in front of you, maybe we can allow iCUE to remotely turn off the lights or change the color, whatever it is you like. So those are kind of examples that we're exploring, but we do understand that lighting can work in many applications, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we have a solution for everything out there.
All right, looking good. The basic idea behind Corsair's iCUE software is to unite all RGB control into one single location. So not just peripherals, but components like all-in-one cooling loops and RAM and everything. Just control everything through iCUE.
And at Computex, Corsair is showing off new RAM and a new case that takes full advantage of this improved software. 2 new flagship additions to its industry-leading range of RGB products, Vengeance RGB Pro Series DDR4 memory, and the Obsidian Series 500D RGB SE PC case. The company released a great video for their new case, so let's go ahead and check that out now.
Yeah, that looks great. So I'm sure they'll be bringing it by the studio soon enough for us to check it out in person.
Please.
And today we have a ton of great deals on some very awesome Corsair tech, starting with discounts on 16 or 32 gig. of Corsair Vengeance LPX RAM, as well as a 50% discount on a Corsair Carbide Series case with a mail-in rebate.
You can also pick up a discounted Corsair Hydro Series H50 122mm liquid CPU cooler. If you're looking to deck out your build with Corsair parts, now's a great time to do it.
And our friends at MSI also had some interesting tech on display this year. Plenty of upgrades and refreshes that are looking pretty good.
Yeah, one of the most exciting announcements from MSI is the GF63, which is basically a more affordable version of the super high-end GS65 Stealth Thin, which we had on the show here just a few weeks ago. It looks really similar to the GS65, which is great because that laptop looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
And like its higher-end cousin, this gaming laptop features an 82% screen-to-body ratio with a 4.9mm bezel, meaning that MSI got a 15.6-inch display into a 14-inch frame. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we are actually going to have to stop saying it's a 15-inch screen and a 14, because that's what a 15-inch laptop should look like.
Bezels are smaller.
Bezels are teeny.
Yeah.
So starting at only $999, the MSI GF63 will be one of the most affordable gaming laptops at this power level, available later this June. MSI said that this laptop will feature an Intel Coffee Lake Core i7 processor, plans for an even lower cost Intel Core i5 model in the future. I think that could be really disruptive too.
Yeah.
Is breaking that sub $1,000 price point, paired with either a GTX 1050 or a 1050 Ti. It's pretty exciting for those who were maybe a bit hesitant about entering the gaming laptop space and looking at those prices.
Yeah, MSI also refreshed their very snazzy Trident line, which is a small form factor VR-ready gaming build. Now, the new Trident A series is a little less small form, so they could incorporate an internal SFX power supply and full-length GPU. This new design also has a glass side panel for showing off the powerful components and makes full use of MSI's Silent Storm cooling thermal system.
Nice. So it also looks like MSI is going to be upgrading their monitors in a pretty big way.
Yeah.
So the new super wide MSI Optics MAG491C, I got all the letters and numbers out. It comes with a 3840 by 1080 resolution, can offer picture-in-picture mode to display content from 2 different sources at the same time.
Cool.
Also has a 144 hertz refresh rate and AMD FreeSync technology, and will retail for about $1,000. That's a
nice
monster.
Monitor. MSI also revealed a pair of more conventional gaming monitors, the Optics MAG271CR and the MAG241CR. Now, these are the first monitors to use MSI's new Gaming Echo technology, which uses RGB lighting on the back of the monitor that reacts to in-game audio and lighting effects. We're seeing a lot more of this immersive lighting from just about everyone these days, I feel like. Yeah, these monitors.
I'm sorry, no, from the start of our show, the very first episode we did on RGB, we were both talking about, I want that sort of affected ambient lighting to flesh out that experience.
Immersive ambient lighting is amazing.
Excited.
So the monitors that I just mentioned, they also have a 144 hertz refresh rate, super, super fast 1 millisecond response times, features that seem like they're quickly becoming standard in gaming monitors.
Definitely.
Amazing.
And MSI has been expanding their product line over the past few years, monitors, mice, keyboards, and more. And today, as part of Newegg Now, we actually have a great deal on the MSI DS502 Circum Aural gaming headset, which features virtual 7.1 surround sound for half off with a mail-in rebate.
Woo! Next, let's check in with Asus. So they had a lot going on this year at Computex. So let's jump right in with what everyone's talking about, the ROG gaming phone. I am pretty excited about this. We have some video from Asus right here so that you can see what we're talking about if you missed the announcement.
That's the Asus ROG phone.
Yeah.
Let's talk some specs.
Okay, so we've got a 90 hertz screen, which is something we previously saw in Razer's gaming phone.
So slightly slower refresh rate, but Razer's phone was using an LCD, which for some reason has gotten kind of a bad rap in phones these days. Like, I think it's a perfectly fine screen technology. So you trade the faster refresh rate for Asus using an OLED. You get more contrast. So the blacks are a little bit darker.
Darks, brighter brights.
Darker darks, brighter brights, better saturation. So I think that's a handy trade-off right there.
Yeah, so the screen should be nice.
The screen should be nice.
A 2.96 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon 845. So remember when we were talking about those mobile processors earlier in the show, this is the first time that we have seen a clock speed that high in a mobile device. So that's very cool.
I just think it's hilarious that the first production-grade Qualcomm-powered device from Asus overclocked out of the box.
Of course.
That's totally Asus.
Yeah, got to do it right.
We couldn't have the stock clock speed on our phone.
Yeah, and since the CPU's overclocked, then they have vapor
cooling.
So
the most, I think the times that we've seen vapor cooling most aggressively on phones has there was an era of chipsets that ran really, really hot. So we saw vapor cooling on, I think there was a Lumia that had vapor cooling, and it was to offset some of those production issues with that chipset.
That's so random. I love that your brain remembers that.
The Qualcomm 845 suffers none of that type of performance throttling because of heat. So this really is just like, no. We got it. We got this overclocked, and now we're going to make sure it's also properly cooled. Yep. Not only vapor cooling on the inside of this thing, but this is also going to be a modularly designed phone, and one of their modular accessories is additional cooling. So you can really drive this thing. It's kind of ridiculous, but I love that Asus is treating this like it's a platform or an ecosystem that's always existed. And it's a part of the ROG brand, so it's got accessories.
Right, and it's on par with other mobile gaming consoles. You know, they're trying to make this on par with a Switch, with a DS, you know, whatever else it may be. And Gadget said that this is the phone made for Fortnite and PUBG, which is pretty amazing. You mentioned the modular accessories. There's also some gaming controller attachments so that you can really customize it to the feel that you want. Juan, what are your thoughts on gaming phones in general? Do you think there's a market for this?
I totally do. I think 2017, we saw great traction on specialist devices, specialist phones. So you've got great all-rounders. A Galaxy and an iPhone does everything well.
Sure.
But we also saw like LG making some plays with media and content creation. We saw BlackBerry return. BlackBerry just had an announcement today too. If you want a high-end communications device, a phone with a keyboard actually still kind of makes sense. I'm very positive on moves like that. So I think gaming, again, if you approach this as being, this is the niche, and we want to be a king of the niche, and now we have proper competition. We've got Razer and Asus battling for the notion of what should a gaming phone deliver, what kind of experience should you be looking for. Razer's really fresh to the scene. They bought out Nextbit, and in a year managed to make an incredible gaming-focused device on this really fresh relationship after having bought this company. Actually, it's closer to 2 years. Asus has been making Zen phones for a while now, so they've got pretty good expertise on getting a phone out the door. This is the first time we've seen them slap an ROG label on that product. So putting all of that together, now I think we've got some really interesting things to talk about. You never really want to be first in a new space. You get punished if you do something that's different than the norm. But now we've got Razer, Asus, and I believe there are 2 other Chinese manufacturers that are looking at their own gaming branding on devices too.
So it's fun to me because you're looking at this from a phone guy, from a tech perspective. But I feel like looking at this from a gaming perspective, the interesting thing about what we're seeing right now with gaming phones is I feel like for the first time, we really have software that makes people care having a gaming phone that is that high powered. Because admittedly, I've never been much of a mobile gamer as far as what's available in the Google Play and what's available in, you know, the iOS and the App Store. But as we see the popularity of Fortnite, PUBG, people are going to, I mean, we've seen people be competitive in these games, and if they want to do that on the go, then these phones could give them the edge they're looking for. And I think because the software is driving the hardware, now there's going to be a market for that.
I would say for the last 2 years, our phones have been ridiculously powerful, and we haven't really been tapping that hardware.
I agree. 95% of users don't come anywhere close to using their phones
really
for
maxing that thing out.
Yeah, at their max.
And so
exactly.
we had a little kind of back and forth. I've got one of the chats up right now from one of the Newegg ninjas, and Leo put it up in our chat here. You know, what are some games? And so immediately people start talking about like emulators and stuff. But if you really go to games focused for Android, I've been playing Shadowgun Legends, which is a great first-person shooter.
Okay.
That starts to tax like Qualcomm 820s. You've got your World of Tanks, World of Warships, if you want that kind of wide open, kill everything kind of world, in addition to PUBG, and eventually we'll get that Android version of Fortnite.
Yep.
Gear Club and Asphalt 8 are phenomenal racing games that also I think do a pretty good job of taxing that hardware. Riptide won't even let you max out graphic settings if you only have a dual core phone, and that's like water ski racing, which is pretty cool. And then Rockstar has actually done a really good job of transferring over legit Rockstar titles to Android. So Max Payne, Bully. A bunch of the GTAs are available on there too.
Yeah, and then of course you can't forget emulators.
Yeah. Well, and you know, emulators again, I mean, people will point to that because it takes that extra layer. You really need a phone that can drive an emulator to have a good experience. But I think another thing that's going to be really popular are all of the mobile-first focused MOBAs.
Okay.
So like you could fire up a game like Vainglory. I'm terrible at these types of games. But that was the first time I think I had a Qualcomm 820 powered phone was Vainglory, where the phone started to get really warm and I wasn't done playing.
Yeah.
And like now, again, Qualcomm 845 series, these things are running like butter. So we might mock some of the worst aspects of pay to win mobile games and games that rely way too heavy on cooldown timers or in-game premium currencies. But there's a huge ecosystem of some really killer titles that will only get better if companies like Asus and Razer are building things like docks.
Okay, I can see that.
You pop that down, and they have a first-party good controller accessory. You can plug that into an easy HDMI port and have that sort of more Switch-like experience. I think consumers will really start to take this more seriously, and this is year 2. My theory is always it takes about 3 generations of product.
Okay.
So when
before it becomes mainstream.
Before consumers start taking it really seriously. You look like the Surface. Surface 1, everyone panned it. Surface 2, kind of shaky. Surface 3, now it's a legit competitor to the MacBook. This is the era now where a lot of people are still on the fence, having these questions, well, I don't know about gaming phones.
Right, is there a market for this, like I asked you in this episode, because that's where we are right now, it's brand new.
Razer Phone 3, Asus ROG Phone 3, and we'll act like these things have always been a part of the conversation.
Yeah, it's very, very cool to see where this is going. But Asus also revealed a lot more than just its new phone, even though we could spend an entire episode on that. They revealed a lot more at Computex, including a dual-screen AI-powered laptop known for now as Project Precog, and the Zenbook Pro 15 with a touchscreen trackpad.
Now that looks really interesting. So it's not only, I think it's beautifully designed, it should be remarkably powerful. If they're gonna call it a Zenbook Pro, I'm sure it's gonna have bleeding edge specs. But that touchscreen, did you see it's a 5.5-inch screen, which you can use for other little apps. Like it can turn into a calculator, it can have your calendar on there, number pad. So it's kind of like that touch bar on a MacBook, but I don't know, how do you feel? Like, do you think that that's more, I think it's more useful.
I think it's definitely more useful because you can fit things like a calculator and, I mean, really kind of get that second screen experience. Kind of like, it always reminds me of like the Wii U with the Wii U pad and having that second screen experience. And provided things are designed appropriately for it, it can really add to the experience and be more than just gimmicky. I think the thing with the Wii U, everyone's like, it doesn't really add to the game, it's kind of distracting. But if they can find cool ways to do that, like I think a calculator's a great example, then I feel like that space is much more useful than a strip.
I think developers will be more inclined, so with the Apple argument, you know you're only building for one MacBook.
Sure.
So developers, I think, have a bit more incentive to support out of the box. Like, oh, it's the new fresh thing from Apple, and we know everyone who buys it's going to have the exact same kind of thing. It's easy for us to code for. So I think there might be a little more barrier to getting developers on board in Asus only kind of experience. But if other companies also start taking advantage of some of this too, I think developers will be more inclined to actually treat that real estate with a little bit more care and attention because you can do more with it. It's like having a phone screen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know about you, but there are many times that even though I have a multi-monitor setup at home, I'm doing things on my phone while I'm using...
all the time.
Yeah, all
Totally.
the time. So I'd love to actually get hands on that and see if it ends up being useful or if there's things where, like, you know, my hand accidentally bumps something and, you know, and actually see how it is in practice. But in theory, I like the idea.
I'm JJ. You just want to drop one by. We'll totally
We'll
give
be
it
glad to check it out.
Take it for a test drive. Just a quiet drive around the block. It'll be totally fine.
Yep. Asus also showed off a rugged Zenbook S that's designed with military standards for durability. The mid-range VivoBook line also got a refresh, and they also showed off the new Zen All-in-One Pro, a 27-inch desktop that has a swiveling screen hinge, wireless charger embedded into its base, and a 6-core Intel Core i7 processor. All of that and new wearables like the Vivo Watch BP, which will keep track of blood pressure, heart rate, sleep quality, and other health data. So lots of stuff that Asus was like, and then this, and then this, and then this.
And another thing. No, they were definitely bringing their A game to Computex this year. And to celebrate their awesome announcements, we've got some great deals on Asus gear that you might want to buy right now, like the Asus ROG Strix Scar Edition 17.3-inch gaming laptop for $70 off.
Or you can pick up the Asus VivoBook Flip 2-in-1 for $80 off, and that's a perfect back-to-school laptop, portable, light, flexible.
Good times. And if you're in the market for a motherboard, you can check out the Asus ROG Crosshair 7 Hero AM4 socket board for $60 off, which would be the perfect complement for that Ryzen build you're looking at with the CPU that we also have on sale today too.
Yes. Aorus and Gigabyte also got up to some interesting shenanigans at Computex, including fake RAM.
So I'm straying from script again. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be wandering all over this episode. I saw so many people that were cranky about this announcement.
Of course they were, because they didn't expect it. The knee-jerk reaction when it's anything other than what you expect, as we've said before,
is pretty cranky.
To be like, I don't like it.
It was a little undie twisting. So the idea is that Gigabyte is selling its new Aorus RGB LED memory as a kit. So 2 of the sticks are 8 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. It's a total of 16 gig. But the other 2, the other half of this bundle, the other 2 sticks are just dummy fake RAM sticks. They look exactly the same, and they have the same RGB lights, but they don't actually have the memory modules built into them. If you're a completionist, I don't see the problem.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Like, the thought here is that gamers who are looking to complete their sweet RGB illuminated gaming rigs won't be left with empty memory slots on their motherboard, even if they don't need 64 gigs of RAM. It's an interesting solution that really shows just how seriously companies like Gigabyte are taking RGB.
Yeah, definitely. I just wasn't prepared for the ire that some people were showing with like, oh, then RGBs. Like, if you want it all laid out, you want everything, every one of those modules, those DIMM slots filled, I thought, like, okay, this seems reasonable. Just me? Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it coming at all. But that being said, I wasn't mad about it. I was just like, oh,
okay.
That's different. Okay.
I see what you did there.
Fake RAM. Cool.
I see what you did there, Gigabyte. So like MSI, Gigabyte also showed off a couple of budget-friendly 15 and 17-inch laptops. Saber 15 and Saber 17, starting at $1299. Notebooks will be launching around the beginning of September. Both use 8th gen Intel Core i7 8750H processors, up to 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is nice because a lot of these systems usually top out at 16.
Yep.
And Nvidia GTX 1050 with 4 gigabytes of VRAM, and plenty of other options, especially options when it comes to storage.
Yeah, Aorus, which is Gigabyte's gaming brand, is getting a lot of coverage this year at Computex with new motherboards like the X399 Extreme and a huge selection of peripherals like RGB mouse pads, new gaming mice, and even Aorus branded power supplies. So we're looking looking forward to seeing what else Aorus is going to focus on, since it looks like they're looking to cover just about everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that was a lot to cover too, just what we talked
Sure
about right there.
was. What, just, the few things that we mentioned today? This has been a very talky show. And no doubt there's plenty more that we could be talking about,
Totally.
but we would love to hear your thoughts. So at the top of the show, we told you we wanted to hear from you in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. So let's do a quick check-in and see what people have been talking about during today's episode.
So I don't have a note on who dropped us this question, but it comes from someone watching the show, ostensibly. Do you think core counts are just going to continue to double? When does it end?
Never!
Exclamation point,
It
question
never
mark,
ends!
exclamation point, question mark. And I would also just like, for those of you who are into your punctuation, look up the interrobang. That's always good times.
Okay.
So you don't. It's 2 keystrokes instead of having 4 anyway. Core counts. 16 cores. We were flipping out Intel 28,
Yeah.
AMD Threadripper 32. One of the interesting things that I think is kind of cool is when they look at lumping massive core counts together and they can function as one general computing platform when
Yes.
developers don't make their software notice multiple cores. Do you think we're just going to see more CPU core counts on top of this, or do you think we're going to get more specialty hardware like Qualcomm making a big play on AI? So now the Qualcomm 845 has an AI chip which is dedicated to that kind of processing, freeing up the CPU for other tasks.
I don't think it's an either or. I think that we're going to have different manufacturers going in different directions, and we'll get the best of both. What do you think?
I think we're probably going to go more specialty.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you think that?
I think we've got this 32 core experiment, depending on how that sells, obviously, in the consumer space.
Right.
That one of the reasons why we have such extreme hardware for that area is because of the way that software is currently developed. And I think when developers start paying attention to specialty hardware, what can I do with the GPU? Okay, well, we've seen some really cool GPU compute. You get some really great benefits if you're into like video editing and video rendering, and now that GPU is just as important as however many cores the CPU has. But when AI starts taking over some of the daily computing tasks, I think we'll start to see more focus on spreading some of that out from making the CPU the main source and the main heavy lifter for everything. So I think eventually we do top out, and then there's an AI chip, then maybe there's a VR chip, and then maybe there's a graphics chip, and then maybe there's, we can start peeling that off and making specialty products that all sort of fulfill very niche, resource-intense tasks.
I like that future that you just painted for us.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, guys, that was a ton to cover today, and again, there's no doubt that there's more we could talk about, but we're going to move on.
we are going to move
on.
Okay, so before we go, we do have a few more deals to get to, so you should check these out. We have the very awesome Magnus Z-Box EN1060 from Zotac, which, if you can believe it, has a GTX 1060. It's this little guy right here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna slide it. It's actually powering, I'm being delicate right now because it's actually powering my monitor and notes, but it's right here. And the cables are just short enough. I can't, that's about as close as
you guys can see it in
so
screen right now.
really small form factor PC. I've been using it all show. It's packing a 1060, 6 gigabytes of RAM. Again, pretty amazing. Zotac has been making some killer small form factor PCs, especially gaming PCs, and this exact box, you can get it for $70 off right now.
Nice. We also have some killer displays discounted right now, like the Samsung U28E5, which is a 4K UHD display for less than $300. So if you've been looking to go 4K, now's the time. And if you want something super affordable, the Dell S2218M 22-inch display is only $120. So if you want a TV, we've got a pretty amazing deal right now. The Avera 43 AER 20 43-inch 1080p LED TV for $50 off with a mail-in rebate.
Not too shabby.
Yeah.
Lastly, make sure you check out the super popular Snowball Ice microphone by Blue. I'm just gonna reach forward. We weren't using this for the show today, but we can give it a little highlight time right here by our Razer keys. I mean, you've seen this. So many podcasters and other web producers have been using this mic. $40. So
Awesome.
if you want a well understood USB mic, you're an aspiring podcaster or streamer out there, you should check out the Newegg Now page and pick yourself up a cute little spherical recording device.
That's a great deal. And hey, maybe you've been wondering, what do Juan and Trisha do after the show ends every Thursday? Well, you're in luck. This afternoon, we're going to be stopping by Newegg Plays, the regular gaming live stream show that takes place right upstairs in the Newegg offices, to be playing some Gang Beasts. So yeah, that's going to happen later today. You can watch along on mixer.com/Newegg starting at 1:30 p.m. today, and I believe also on Twitch too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So remember all the deals, newegg.com/Newegg now, live through the end of the day or while supplies last. I need to throw a shout out to my lovely wife, Marie, who tried to buy me a 1080 Ti FTW3. I was talking about it on the show, and I just got the text that we did not grab that deal.
It was sold out too fast, but
sold
Marie, thank you for watching the show and trying to hook Juan up. That was we were discussing that during one of the videos you guys were watching.
I just need everyone to know how awesome my wife is. That
Pretty
she
awesome.
Not only watches the show, but she tries to buy me cool stuff.
She tries to buy you graphics cards. I mean,
you're like a 1080 Ti, but also probably because she's tired of hearing me whinge on about the will I, won't I, when will I upgrade the Frankenbox.
God, I'm just gonna get it.
I'm just gonna do. I couldn't.
Well, thank you for trying.
Thank you, Marie.
Game over. Thanks for playing.
I love you.
Seriously though, thank you to everyone out there for watching the show. We're going to be taking next week off from Newegg Now because we and the Newegg Studios team will be at E3. Make sure that you stay tuned to the Newegg YouTube channel since we'll be dropping videos from the convention, and follow along with all the action by following Newegg on Twitter. And we'll be back in 2 weeks to take a look at all the highlights from this year's show. This has been Newegg Now, and now you know. Bye, guys.